Hello to the chicas, hello to the chicas. In today's video we are going to discuss three main attacking plans in the Sicilian, and with that I hope to shed some light about the intricacies of the Sicilian and to help you separate and identify the correct attacking plans. And so without further ado, we are going to jump right into our first game, in which we are going to see the number one attacking pawn break, I should say, which is going to be the e4 e5 break, which will be better explained once we get to the discussed move. So we are looking at a regular Scheveningen, and here we have e5 played already. However, I would like to stop just a couple of moves later right here, because this, I think, is the position that best explains to us what is going on with the e5 break. So, the e5 push break in general is designed from white's perspective to gain space in the center, but also on the king side. What we are doing here is that we are obtaining the so-called Kasparov pawn, which is something that I talk about in great detail in my Chess Principles Reloaded King Safety course, funnily enough, because this e5 push actually allows us more space on the king side, and also by definition it kicks the most important defender of the king side, the f6 knight. And so, as such, now we have got greater territory that we can use to our purposes on the king side. An extra diagonal for the bishop. And it is obviously an ultimate way to get closer to our main goal, which is to checkmate our opponent king. So the pros about this break is that it kicks a very important enemy defender. It opens up usually the f-file for the rook, which directly attacks f7, but also can be used for a rook lift. And also we gain an extra diagonal for the light squared bishop. The downside of this story is that the e5 pawn in the long run tends to become weak. And on occasion, the long diagonal bishop for black gains extra power, because we kind of eliminated everything on that diagonal. So whatever it's going to shoot at, it's going to do so with quite a bit of gusto. Let's see how the attack unfolds. Also, out of the three that I'm going to show you, this is the one that typically tends to happen the most when the kings are castled to the same side, which is not to say that it doesn't happen with the king castled queen side. It does, but this is most frequently occurring on same side castling scenarios. So bishop d3, tuck, tuck, bishop c5. Black is trying to do one of the most common strategies, or follow the most common strategies of defending a slightly inferior position, and that is to trade pieces. However, with this, black has just departed the one last piece that was still guarding important kingside squares, and so this is begging for punishment, and punishment, here we come. Bishop takes h7, a modified Greek gift, check, and knight e4. An absolutely sensational attack is unfolding, and you can see how the e5 e6 pawn duet basically separates kingside and queenside. So all the black pieces west of the e pawns are just useless. They just cannot partake in the defense, and white at least has three and a half attackers on the king side that can, and in fact will, decide the game. So yeah, knight e4, a marvelous chess move, threatening to bring the knight into g5 and checkmate the black king. Bishop takes d4 was played, not much else could be done. Knight g5 and queen takes c2. A very cute and clever way to try to stop the mate, but the problem is that f7 is just as vulnerable. And yeah, black is now just falling apart here. That being said, there was a beautiful finish to the game. Bishop c5 would have held a little bit longer. The idea there is that we are going to just double up. But black played knight takes e5, which seemingly holds everything together. Now if I take f8, then after king takes, there is no mate on f7. So it looks like black just got out of jail. But that's when white goes like, let's call the ambos. But not for me, baby. It is for you. Matutski, Boomski, you name it, we are here. Ladies and gentlemen, that is an absolutely fabulous checkmate pattern there, and Black resigned, seeing that checkmate right there. Incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible stuff. All right, on to the next. So our next attacking scheme / pattern is going to be the other pawn, f4, f5. Once again, I'm going to explain it better when we get to the actual move. g3, queen c7, bishop g2, rook e8, rook f1, knight f8, and f5. Now the f5 move, I would say, is a little bit more versatile, or perhaps better put, more complex in terms of what it is aiming to accomplish. Because f5 has got many sides to it. First and foremost, unlike e5, f5 tends to not trigger almost by default a reaction, which usually is e5. Very often black doesn't respond, in which case our strategy revolves around undermining, weakening the e6 pawn and attacking the weak e pawn. Equally frequently, black chooses to play something against it, which is usually e5, which takes us into a very different structure. So now we are kicked out of d4, but in return the d5 square has been dramatically weakened. In fact, it has become an outpost. And also the thematic g4, h4, g5 pawn storm has become incredibly powerful, because the f5 pawn here gains a lot of space. So usually f5 is played with the intention of either provoking e5 or wanting to take on e6 and then play against the weak e6 pawn, something like bishop h3. You can picture how that would take place. Now, when is it good? Every time when it carries a meaningful threat, and also when we are well prepared to meet e5 and we can retain control of the critical d5 square. And finally, when it's guaranteed that our attack on the king side is going to launch and in fact accomplish goals faster than their counterplay on the queen side. When is it not good? Typically f5 is bad when after e5 black can immediately or very shortly after follow with a d5 break, completely exploding the center and taking over both in initiative and basically just overall in the entire game. It is also quite sad if somehow their pawn storm gets there faster than we can hurt them on the other side. Let's see how this unfolded in this game, which was Šarić Ivan against Kožul Zdenko, a Croatian derby. e5 played, bishop takes f6, and here you see, by the way, white's strategy every step of the way being delivered to perfection. So now we have obtained the d5 square. That's already a huge accomplishment. And then now we are on to plan 2, plan B. Let's get the pawns rolling. Knight h7, h4, b5, rook h1. This is to prepare g4, as after g4, bishop h4 would have created a very unpleasant blockade actually. So rook h1 was necessary, bishop b7, and g4. I want you to observe that white plays moves that serve a purpose. Right? Like, there is no airy-fairy stuff, no preparation, no nothing. Look at it. f5, e5. Take to obtain d5. Occupies d5. Moves a hanging piece. As soon as there is an inch of freedom, let's go. Pawn storm. Pawn storm needed to be prepped there, and pawn storm good to go. And again, g5 doesn't seem playable, but because there is a check there in the end. So first we sidestep it. And now we are good to roll, either after take or push right away. Rook c5, he ended up taking, and the final adjustment here, g5 is not yet playable because e4 is an important pawn. So knight d2 covering the pawn, and now there is no hesitation. Pull the trigger, g5. And again, it's hanging, but no one cares. Because after take, knight takes, we have got queen h5, and it is Matutski already down on h8. f6 played, and now white just relentlessly goes after the black king. Knight f3, knight f7, queen g6. Now the game-winning threat is rook h7, so the 7th rank needs to be protected. Now we double up on the h, we triple up on the h, and now we go back to the target on g7, queen g6, and after queen f8, Saric puts the icing on the cake. OMG, knight g5. An absolutely sensational finishing blow. The knight cannot take g5 because it allows mate, whereas f takes g5 allows white to play f6, introducing an altogether new threat, rook g7, queen g7 mate, and of course the knight still can't move on account of allowing rook h8 checkmate. Another fabulous example, and with that we are going to move on to our final game, which is going to be two of the greatest titans of chess, former world champion Vishy Anand against Jan Timman, the Dutch legend, and this time around we are looking at a classical Sicilian and actually the Kozul variation, which is our previous black player, and here Anand opts for the slightly more timid f3, introducing the English attack idea of pawn storming on the king side, g4, h4, g5, h5, bang, 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 which is our third and final attacking pattern, and this is going to be carried out to perfection too. Have a look. g4, knight a5, now knight c4 is black's plan. We usually sidestep to king b1 to prepare for all the dirt that is coming at us on the queen side. Knight c4, take, take, and knight ce2, the final preparatory move to get out of dodge, but also to prevent queen a5. And from here on out, Anand is nothing but pedal to the metal. Watch. Castles, let's go, baby. Knight goes back. Note that knight h5 here is really not good because knight g3, knight g3, hg3 immediately opens this file up, and black gets shrekmated very, very soon. So knight e8, and you just go. And you just go. Go, I said. But he's still optimizing pieces. Admirable. But now he goes. No, still doesn't. Now he does. So now we have got the pawns rolling, right? And I have already made a fair number of videos on this topic. That please, please do not forget that the objective of this pawn roll fundamentally is to damage the opponent's king's defense for sure, but equally importantly, if not more importantly, to open up files. That's your goal. So watch how Anand does it. He plays g6, of course, because that is the pawn push that creates the most amount of friction amongst the pawns. And when Timman doesn't respond, which by the way usually is one of the best defensive methods, which one is he gonna take? Neither, because he wants open files. So this way he ensures that both rooks will be on open or semi-open files, even if it comes at the cost of a pawn. No one cares. Takes. And now black had to play rook f7 because otherwise all kinds of queen here ideas would have been immediately decisive. There is nothing to be done against the incoming catastrophe. So hence rook f7 with the idea of taking with the rook on g7 and cover up h7. But now you will see the point behind the pawn storm and getting rid of with our own pawns in front of our rooks. Here we go. There is no other way but forward and no other way but boomski and Zaccarino. King takes, queen check. The king had to take on g7. And now comes the coup de grace. Beautiful move. Knight g6, which introduces a mate into threat. Check. And a beautiful double check, checkmate. In order to dodge this bullet, Timman had to take the bishop on e3. But this allowed Anand to pick off the enemy queen and still be up a ton of material. Queen d6 is threatened. Queen h6 is threatened. It's all kinds of misery. So Timman threw in the towel. So in conclusion, our three main plans in Sicilian attacking schemes for white are e5, f5, and the kingside pawn storm. with the FG pawns going as far as they go. All of them have their strategic ups and downs. I didn't talk about the downs of this plan. Doesn't really have one the same way how the other one does. So there's nothing ever wrong with doing this unless you are late. That's about it. So this, other than the other two where there are obvious pros and cons, the only downside to this is that if it hits too late and you either get hit by e5, d5 in the center, or your opponent kills you on the other side of the board faster, then it's no bueno. But other than that, this is a really, really potent attacking plan. The other two, as explained, had their pros and cons. I hope you guys enjoyed this little summary of the Sicilian attacking plans. I can't wait to read your comments down below. Please don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. And I will see you in the next video soon. Thanks for watching.